So first topic is Kevin Love out with his knee injury. Does it matter at all? What are your thoughts?
Carmelo Anthony replaced him in the All-Star game.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. He's out, 6 weeks?
Something like that. 2 months.
Who else do you think should have been there to replace him?
Embiid, but Embiid's hurt.
Anybody else worthy? Did both the guys on Toronto make it?
Lowry and DeRozan?
Yeah, they both make it?
I don't think DeRozan did, right?
Check it out.
But they probably should have had another big man just because the West is stacked with the bigs and East is all guards.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are already on the All-Star team, so Mirotic could have replaced them.
How about Porzingis?
They're probably just doing it just because it's Carmelo.
Yeah, because he complains.
Yeah, exactly.
How about
is he known as a complainer? No.
Milo?
I don't think so.
Hey,
you there, bro?
I was listening to Stephen A. Smith earlier today, and they were talking about this whole thing with the owner of the Knicks and how everybody keeps like kind of insulting Carmelo. One thing he mentioned was, I guess, a couple of games ago, they did like an era by era highlight of the different teams, and when they got to this era, they had a whole highlight reel for Jeremy Lin, but there was no clip show of Carmelo at all. They didn't have him in any clips. They didn't have any highlights of him or anything. And he wanted to talk about that. And they didn't really talk about it. But I just thought it was really, really interesting with all the talk about them not wanting to have Carmelo anymore and try to trade him, but also kind of lowering his trade value. I don't know. Do you guys have any idea? What's the strategy for if they want to trade him or keep him? Why would they keep doing these sort of passive-aggressive things and public insults, I guess, as it's perceived? What do you guys think?
Is Carmelo wanted to talk about it?
No, Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith wanted to talk. Okay,
he's the one that mentioned it. He goes, I can't believe they didn't show. They showed Jeremy Lin and Lin's sanity, but they didn't show anything about Carmelo.
Here's the question, though, is you got to think of New York is one of the toughest fan bases in the world.
True.
They're not going to be easy on anybody. And what has he accomplished for their team? At least Jeremy Lin brought like an excitement and a
Asian flair.
Some flair. He brought. It's exactly what it was. I mean, so you get a guy that comes in and brings some excitement around the team and has everybody talking about you. Carmelo Anthony really hasn't even done that. The only story that Carmelo Anthony brought to the Knicks was that he's back in New York.
Yeah, back in his hometown.
Right.
But, like, he's not even really from there. He was just, like, born there, so it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
I went to school in Syracuse, I guess.
Yeah. He is part Puerto Rican, so I try to not hate on him too much, but but there's not a whole lot to write home about. I mean, he's never really – I mean, some All-Star games, some, consecutive scoring runs that have been impressive, but outside of that, has he ever really accomplished anything?
Not in the NBA.
Nope.
Right.
That 1 year in NCAA.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Oh, well, you got to give his Olympic stuff. You have to give that a look. But that's the only thing that's saving him. I don't know. I always thought the NBA was so many players, if given the opportunity and the minutes and the shots, could average 20 points a game. He's kind of like Tracy McGrady. He scored a lot, but the team doesn't get better. You don't really win. So it's just, to me, it's just kind of boring,
Yeah. Speaking of Jeremy Lin and giving guys shots and scoring 20 points a game, you guys want to talk about Yogi?
Yogi's the man right now.
Yes, he is.
I don't know how a bad team like the Nets
exactly
got rid of him. Like, how couldn't he play on the Nets? I don't even think they gave him a shot.
That goes back to what Milo just said, too, is like there's so many guys out there. Not so many. Obviously, the NBA is a pretty skilled sport, but there is a lot of other guys out there that probably could score 15, 20 points a game just given the opportunity. It's such a good example of it. And, like, it's usually never that glaring. You get to see that every once in a while, but, like, a few weeks later, after somebody's cut, and then they come out and just kill it like that. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's cool. I saw Dallas play earlier this year when Yogi was out in Brooklyn, though. They were horrible. I was telling Toma, I couldn't believe. So I was at Charlotte against Dallas in Charlotte. I couldn't believe that the Warriors and the Cavs were in the same league as these two teams playing. And Charlotte was in the playoffs at that time. And it was just horrible. It was boring. I was like, there's no way. And I watched that Dallas game where Yogi was 8 for 9 from 3. That was an exciting game against Portland. So he changes the whole dynamic dynamic of the team.
Yep. And I think a lot of people question whether or not, just because of his size, if he'd be a good NBA player.
And then most of the NBA is matchup driven, and he's small, but he holds his own on defense. That's like the hard part about the NBA is being able to guard. You can score, but who are you going to guard? And I thought he guarded pretty well. I mean, he was guarding in that Portland game. He had Lillard. He did okay on him. So good for him.
Yeah.
What was the question originally? Something about love. We went on this.
Kevin Love's out with an injury. Is it a big deal?
Well, you could take
That's
out
not
of
right.
you can take out of the hockey segment because we don't know anything about hockey.
I really just enjoy letting the audience know that the hockey season is still going on, but we're never going to talk about hockey. So that's all.
I want to see if Boston's going to make this little run now. With Love out, they're only 2.5 back. See if they can try to get that 1 seed.
All the sports shows have been talking about all these different players are getting injured, and all the superstars have at least one big injury under their belt and multiple ones. And the last couple of days, actually, they're talking about how LeBron is unstoppable. He's unbreakable. He plays so many minutes, and he just keeps he's like a runaway freight train or whatever the different words that they're saying. And I caught a little bit of the game right now. They're playing Indianapolis, and I think he's just trying to draw foul because he is a very good actress. But I thought he blew out his ankle. I watched the replay and I watched one ankle do like a tilt thing, and I was like, "Oh no, he did it! He busted his ankle." But he was holding on to the ankle that looked fine. So I was like, with all this unstoppable talk, I figured they were jinxing him, but he's fine.
He's a complete freak of nature. I mean, just
the other NBA talk. Have you guys caught any good games? They tried to make a big deal out of the OKC Golden State game, and
man, well, the whole Oakley thing, and the OKC thing. I mean, the Super Bowl's done. There's March Madness hasn't started.
Absolutely.
They were reaching for stories, and it was so overkill. It was really, really overkill.
I heard on one of the shows there was a lady moderating, and she actually asked the guest host. She asked the question during the Golden State Warriors game. Kevin Durant was playing really well, and he shot 3-pointers and was shooting really well. What do you think he was trying to say by that? I was like, what?
That's
what?
funny.
He's playing a competitive. What are you talking about? What other language are you speaking if you're playing basketball? What the hell? It was the craziest. And obviously it was the person that answered was, they gave this deeply psychological explanation. And I'm like, you know what? Time out, guys. Just two dudes that used to be teammates and now they're playing against each other. Take it easy.
Although Russell Westbrook was screaming, "I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming." That was great.
I gotta get like a collection of his audio when the stuff that he says during the games. I think it might be awesome.
Yeah.
How's Jokic doing tonight? I haven't checked the stats.
Yeah, I don't know. Who are they playing tonight?
I think they're playing Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah, you're right. Yep.
I know stuff occasionally.
He's got 10 points, 9 boards, so you get a double-double again.
Yep.
I didn't have a good story for defending Djokovic. I did find an article about his what's his name, Boris, or what's his old trainer's name? Help me out.
Boris Becker.
Boris Becker. They were asking Boris whether Nadal and Federer are gonna win more tournaments and what this means since they're older and really beaten up, and whether Djokovic has got what it takes to get back to number one. And he pretty much said, yeah, he's got everything. Just depends on his mental state, but he's absolutely capable of going back to number one again. So there's not so much to defend there.
It's all mental.
Yeah, it's all mental. He just kept saying about how it was really nice that, the way Federer won this last match, and how the conversation has shifted amongst people that talk about tennis to say it used to be. This time last year, it was Djokovic, when is he going to surpass Federer's record? And now it's, will he be able to even reach it? So it's crazy I want to say it's crazy what a year can change. But like Tommy said, I don't think of all the transitions of people reaching for stories, when they reach for stories, they don't reach for tennis. But it is a reflection of how short-term, everybody has a short-term memory in sports. So they think if you don't have a good tournament or two tournaments, that it's just doom and gloom. Tennis is a young person's sport, but still, everybody should calm down.
Yeah.
That's the theme of today's show, calm down. Right, Tommy?
Yep.
He's so mad. Tennis is
so pissed.
Are you watching this? Are you watching this? I'm furious. I'm furious watching this.
I can't watch them no more. They're out of the tournament anyways. So.
I know. I like what's going to happen 5-9. I mean, that's ridiculous. Can we just talk about IU? Can we talk about college hoops now?
Yeah.
Let's just jump in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, and I don't know, they're just not good. And I'll be the first person to say, all these fans that say, we're IU, we're Indiana, we deserve better. I mean, Indiana stopped being good after 1993, and they made it to that final in 2002 because they shot lights out. They were a fifth seed. So it's not like we were regularly going there. So these Indiana fans that say, oh, we're Indiana, they're all over 50 years old. So it's been a long time. They're not, that kind of segues into my whole thing about perception of what's a basketball school and what's great success. Indiana's, they're just middle of the road. That's just plain and simple where they're at right now. Everybody wants their team to be good and be in the Elite Eight and Final Four every year, but, Indiana's just not that school. They haven't been since since the early 90s.
Forgive my ignorance, is Purdue ranked? Is Notre Dame ranked? If you actually knew those things, then you'd be prepared. But that's cool. I mean, Purdue's ranked. Notre Dame was 25th, I think.
Yeah, they've jumped back up, I think, to 25. Purdue stayed at 16.
Are any of the other Indiana schools anywhere? Butler's not on that list anywhere.
Butler was ranked. I don't know if they are anymore. Where did it go wrong? That's what I want to know. Like, where did we go wrong?
You know what I'm really sick of? This whole narrative that Crean rescued Indiana. Kelvin Sampson was there for 2 years. And then when they fired him, he won 23 games, and they lost, 3 scholarships. That's like me saying, oh, man, that stuff that happened 14 years ago, that's crazy. I mean, it's like they just keep using that. Kelvin Sampson, that's the narrative. And Kelvin Sampson, yeah, there was a couple of things, and they lost some scholarships, but nothing that could lead to this, decade long now, his 9th year. And I still see articles saying, IU owes Crean because he brought him from the depths. Crean actually, here's the real truth. He brought a lot of that onto himself, and he kicked people off the team. And why? Because if you go there and you keep a semi-competitive D1 team, the clock starts a lot sooner. But if you go in there and you get all these writers to start writing that, oh, look at this, they've got 5 scholarship players, they don't start the clock for 3 years. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
So he got a free pass for the first 3 years, you're saying?
Yeah. When you go in there and kick off everyone on your team, everyone's going to be like, oh, this is going to be good. So you just sit there for 3 years of your 9. So it's like, okay, are we stupid? Are we seriously? And everybody's now saying, because he's the one that kicked those guys off the team, him and Dokic, actually, my boy Dokic.
He's doing the NBA game tonight.
Yeah.
NBA crossover.
Little crossover.
So, I mean, I'm cool. I told Toma that I was not going to complain about Crean this year, which I haven't, but I'm just trying to bring the truth to the forefront of the discussion. Indiana is not a basketball school anymore. There's a couple of schools that there's really only one true basketball school. But actually there's 2 basketball schools in the whole country. 3. Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina, or Kansas, Kentucky, and North Carolina. All 3 of those schools have had great success with multiple coaches. Duke is not one of those schools. It's just Coach K. Indiana is like Duke before Duke. You guys follow what I'm saying?
Like Cousin Knight?
Cousin Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 3 true programs, and of course you could.
Can you argue that the pre-night days we had championships though? No, we only had what? How many do we have?
2.
2. Yeah.
I mean, you could, but it's like a whole different style of basketball. I mean, I'm talking about
modern day basketball.
Yeah, I'm talking about 1970 on, because I don't think you count Cincinnati Bearcats as a powerhouse, and I think they won 2 in the 60s.
Yeah, true.
So that's my thought, is that there's really only those 3 schools, and then UCLA, of course, they've got their title in '95, but they were bad for a while, and they have Wooden. So I think they're comparable to IU's little run. I mean, IU didn't win in 2002, but that was Knight's team anyway. So that's really, if you're going to truly like college basketball, and then actually I'll add. a fourth team to that list, Louisville, because that's part of my Louisville and Kentucky rivalry. 3 titles between 2 coaches, and Pitino's just done. I'm annoyed that IU didn't talk to Pitino, didn't talk to Calipari. Everybody says they do this, they do that. They go to Final Fours. That's all we want to see.
Yeah, no, I think that it's I think it's an interesting way of looking at it. I think a good way of defining it, and saying that there's good programs and there's good coaches, you know. And is it truly a good program, or did you just have a good coach? And when you break it down that way, you're right. There probably only is a few that are actually really good programs that have sustained time and different coaches and different eras of basketball. Yeah, Kentucky, Kansas, and
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You're right.
And I'd put Louisville in there just because they won in the 80s and then Pitino took the job. But they were down for a long time.
Yeah, they were.
Very long time.
So they actually did what Indiana should copy and say, hey, look, we were really good. And then we were like, we thought we were a basketball school, but we really weren't because Denny Crum was a good coach. We need to go out and get the best.
Yeah.
And they did that. It's not rocket science. Is it a top 7 or 8 job? Yeah. It's not a top 3 job. It's actually annoying to listen to IU fans. And we're all IU fans. I mean,
most of us are IU fans.
Yeah, but you don't even like sports, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's a top 7 or 8 job.
So what coach would you go after? Is there anybody that they're saying would be available? Who would be somebody?
No one's really available. We would have to steal them.
Yeah, no one's really available. I saw an article somebody wrote. Billy Donovan. Thomas said no, he wouldn't leave Oklahoma City. I would take Fred Hoiberg from the Bulls. Thomas said no. I'm vetting all these off Toma because he's the college pro to college transition expert. And who was the third guy?
Tom Thibodeau.
No, we would love Bill Self, but I don't.
Bill Self. That was the third one because Kansas is a whole nother level of they're not happy. Well, I mean, I'll take 25 wins all day. But interestingly enough, Kansas hasn't been to a Final Four in about 4 years. 5 years, actually.
2012, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. So that's why Bill Self might become available. That's a scoop right there. If Kansas does not make it to the Final Four, Bill Self will be available. And I think he could end up at Indiana.
I wish Boston wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
Brad Stevens.
He wants the Indiana job.
Oh, he does for sure. Like deep down inside, he wants it.
Yeah. It's like
Boston's going to be good for years now.
I know.
Well, he's going to make way more money. So Indiana's got to totally Jim Harbaugh Brad Stevens and just go get him and just say, hey, you can do anything you want here. We'll make you the highest paid coach. Think about that. We'll make you the highest paid coach. Coach K makes the most. We'll make you the highest paid coach in college. How do you turn that down? Give them more than what Boston gives them. And then Indiana can't say we didn't try. They wouldn't got the best guy out there.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start a website.
I think they did already.
Stevens. Yeah.
No, I think Bill Self's more of an option. Speaking of college coaches leaving, you think Chris Collins would leave Northwestern to go to Duke?
When Coach K retires.
Yeah, when he retires.
I think he'd be his replacement.
So. Yeah, I think that's what's happening, right? I think it's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. He's getting his experience right now. He's going to take Northwestern to their first tourney. Coach K's got, I don't know how many years left. As long as Chris Collins stays on the winning column, he'll probably replace him.
You guys sound like you're in on those meetings already.
We are. Actually,
me and Dougie are boys.
What did Northwestern do tonight?
Lost.
Who did they lose to?
Maryland at home. Maryland at Northwestern.
Oh, that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
Minnesota might as well be Cameron Indoor for IU.
Oh, yeah.
We are horrendous there.
Yeah, remember when, in the 90s when they lost by 62 points that one game?
Yeah. That's right.
It was like the worst game ever played in Indiana history, and I watched it, all of it. That made me think about how IU was really not good from 1994 to basically when we were there, and we had good players, and then we had that run in 02, but really we were like barely making the tournament,
What's the tone of the fans from the because you listen to the IU radio station, you listen to the broadcast from Indy, right?
Yeah, I listen to Dan Dockich.
Yeah. What's the attitude out there? Do they not see the things that you see?
No, they're more demanding than we are. I mean, we're just like, yeah, the guy, like you're paying Crean's making $3 million a year. He's running the show. When IU hired Crean, Toma even said, "Hey, I live in Milwaukee." They were not sad to see him go. That's crazy.
People at Marquette alumni hate him. I sit next to somebody in my office when I'm there. He's a Marquette alum, and he just talks about how everyone hated Crean. Only good thing that he did was bring Dwayne Wade there, but that's about it. They hated him as a coach. They hated him when he used to speak in classes. They couldn't stand him, they said. So it's
like I said, it's a top 8 job. They're paying him. He's not the highest paid guy in the Big Ten even. So it's just there. I mean, it's just okay. But, they're not making the tournament. So he's being paid as a top 10 coach, but he's not in the top 10. It's not a top 10 program. I'm not even saying we've got to be top 4, but are you just okay with maybe making the tournament and then not making it, then making it?
We're not even a top 5 program in the Big Ten in the past 10 years.
Oh, great. Also, great segue to my next point. I'll make it quick. In the last 5 years, 3 teams in the Big Ten have gone to 2 Elite Eights: Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Michigan. That's the Elite Eight. Ohio State has gone to 2 Final Fours in the last 8 years. So there's your answer right there. We are barely a top, probably 5 or 6 program. And there you could probably argue that over the last 10 years, Illinois got that title run, that they would be, they had some success, better than what we had, even though we went to the title game. I mean, it's like they're like 6th in the last 15 years. And don't even start talking about their Big Ten tournament.
When's the last time IU won a Big Ten tournament?
They never did.
Never did.
Oh, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it started in 1998, and they have not ever.
Have we even reached the final?
Yeah.
What year was that we lost?
When we were in college, Luke Recker hit a shot at the buzzer to win.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Iowa.
Yep.
So are you guys accepting the fact that IU's having not a good year? Are you guys starting to get? It's still pretty early. Still middle of February, but still pretty early.
Well, they showed the stat earlier. Without OG in the lineup, we're only scoring 70 points and giving up 77. When he was in the lineup, we were scoring 84 and giving up 69. So look at that swing.
That's a good statistic.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, most statistics are garbage. That's a really good one.
Hey, speaking of stats, Bill Walton tonight in the crossover first game, I think Dickie V said LeBron shooting 42% from threes this year, and Bill Walton goes, "What are stats? These are people we're talking about."
I saw Dick Vitale holding onto his arm, slowly tugging at it so he could to give him that physical contact hint, like, "Hey man, wind it down because I want to say something." And he never gets a clue. He just keeps going.
Probably the most quiet I ever heard Dickie V. Back to hockey.
Back to the Blackhawks.
So I put a question out to the internet, sort of, and a couple people answered, and that'll be on the voicemail line. But I wanted to talk about memorable games, maybe top finals games. I changed it up to top Final Four games and finals to just include more games. On an article, I read a handful of articles on what ESPN and a couple of the other odd internet sports blogs or stations or websites, and almost everyone as of last year ranked the Villanova North Carolina game as the best NCAA finals game in history. Do you guys agree? Were there any other ones that you watched that you remember or that you heard about?
1979, Michigan State when they won. I was a month old. Magic Johnson.
He actually said that was going to be a tight game. He called it. I watched that game at a bar, and I wish I would have watched it at home because it's hard to watch a title game at a bar. But I don't think that that's the best ever. I didn't watch this game, but I just from looking at it and hearing about it and reading about it, 1983, NC State over Houston. I think that's the best game ever because
Jimmy V.
Yeah, Jimmy V. Because Houston was so favored. I don't know what the odds were, but I mean, no one had NC State in that game.
Weren't they an 8 seed?
I don't remember what their seed was, but it was pretty much. I should have looked that up, but they that to me is the best win because nobody picked them. And then had Butler won against Duke.
I'm about to say that game.
That would have been the best.
Nice. I've never seen a half court shot come so. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never. That's the closest you've ever seen a shot like that coming to actually winning a game for like a title in anything. That was amazing.
Yeah. Remember that baseline shot that he missed? He was open. It was like it's like, oh man, that's like he hits those shots. Interestingly enough, though, Butler filled a nice void for us while Crean was rescuing IU. Bad because they were good. It's when IU was really bad, so we were able to watch them and have some interest. But yeah, so that, and then I also think that IU in '87 is up there, and but most memorable player was actually Dwayne Wade, coached by Tom Crean. He had a triple-double in the Final Four, if you guys remember that, which is like amazing for a college player to get a triple-double.
I think 2008 Kansas over Memphis, Self over Calipari, and then you had Chalmers hitting that shot to go at the overtime against D Rose. Was that Chalmers hitting the shot in 08?
Yeah,
that was a good game. And then D Rose went number 1 after that to the Bulls.
Do you guys have any thoughts on any personal games like growing up? Any games that you obviously? Maybe 2002 was pretty exciting, but
SNF 95.
Me personally, one of those like late 80s games, especially that 89 Michigan team.
Oh, yeah. Glenn Rice.
Yeah, Glenn. I mean, that was pretty awesome. And that was the same year as the Flying Illini. Kendall Gill, Marcus Liberty. And that whole team, that was probably one of my favorite teams of all time to watch. And that really was like, IU got me into it, a little bit in 87, 88. I think it was Kansas that won it. Danny Manning, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then 89 was the Michigan year. But that year with Michigan and the Flying Illini, that whole tournament, I'll never forget watching that. I actually watched the championship game in Terre Haute at Larry Bird's Boston Connection Hotel. In a hotel. Was watching. My brother was down there playing in a baseball tournament in March, and we watched the championship game in the hotel room there. I'll never forget that. I don't know why, but I just remember that and I loved watching that whole Final Four in the tournament.
Think about the Big Ten guys that played in the 80s that are looking at the Big Ten this year and watching teams get 22 turnovers in a game. They're probably like, these players are garbage.
Oh, for sure.
Indiana won in 87. Michigan won in 89. The Flying Illini were probably a better team than Michigan. They were ranked higher.
Yeah.
Probably the best team to never win a title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's overall talent.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you.
Kenny Battle, Nick Anderson, Marcus Liberty.
Yeah.
And we can say that with absolutely no allegiance to Illinois.
Yeah.
Like they're just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now you're watching the Indiana go 5-8.
Yeah.
Average 18 turnovers a game. Like that was the golden era of Big Ten basketball.
Yeah. And by the way, the championship game in 89, Michigan 80, Seton Hall 79 in overtime. So that was a great game too.
Yeah.
Seton Hall, a basketball school, huh, Milo?
I just thought that was funny. It's just funny to me, like that was their go-to. Like we're good at basketball. It's like, well, you're not really that good.
Right. Now that's a stretch.
Like that commercial was a dude playing basketball, and he's like, "We're good at basketball." Like that's the thing. Like that. Like who said that's okay? Like who was like, yeah. Anyway,
that's great.
Can we get that? Can you look that up?
Some of the details, I'll find it. I'll link it to the YouTube page. Everything's on there. Anything you think somebody else might not have because it's so weird or something that nobody would ever remember, Somebody's put it on YouTube. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about, to shift it a little bit, and we can go back to college hoops, because I think that's sort of going to be the meat of what we talk about for the next couple months. Last week, the Super Bowl was pretty fresh. Everybody was talking about Tom Brady and whether he's the greatest of all time and all that stuff. I kind of wanted to quickly talk about, maybe, I always say top three because I don't want to just list all night long, but best NFL football coaches of all time. Who would you guys say is the top three? I have I have an ESPN ranking from like a month ago, right before the Super Bowl. That I'm just gonna do the top five. 5 is Chuck Noll. 4 is George Halas. 3 is Don Shula. 2 is Bill Walsh, and 1 is Vince Lombardi. They have Bill Belichick as number 7, whereas. Yeah. But I have another list from, it's not, the first one was ESPN. This is from like Fox or something. Then they have Belichick as number 2, and then Vince Lombardi is number 1.
I don't think there's any question about Lombardi, right?
Exactly.
That was like 5 titles in 9 years. Yeah, that's pretty good. I would say Lombardi, I'd say Bill Belichick's actually number 1 because of the whole, not because I'm a Bears fan, but because of the whole free agency thing. And then I'd say Lombardi's 2, and then I'd say Bill Walsh is 3.
Explain the free agency thing to your show's producer.
Not to the listeners.
Yeah. It's hard to keep a team together in free agency, but like back in those days, like if you had a team, they would stick around. Like those players would stay on the team for as long as you wanted them to. You know, there was nothing really pulling them to go to other teams.
Yeah. Because back then they played, but they also had like other jobs so they could pay the bills.
Yeah. I think most of the Bears had businesses on the side.
Yeah. So,
which don't get me started about the Bears and what they talk about as their golden era. If you look up their history, their golden era was the 40s, which there was like half the league was in World War II, so I don't think that really counts.
So what do we agree? So everybody kind of agrees as far as the best coach.
Lombardi, then Belichick for sure.
Any final thoughts? Anything this week that you're excited about seeing, or any sports event that you're tired of people talking about?
Glenn Robinson III in the dunk contest. I want to watch that.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's in a dunk contest.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to Saturday night. Just 3-point contest, dunk contest.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch. Real quick, just since we talked about the NBA, but I just saw this video earlier today. I don't know if you guys saw it. There was a game in the 80s, Larry Bird, where he told all the reporters and all the guys in his team before the game that he was going to play the game left-handed. And he shot like almost every shot with his left hand.
Oh, wow.
And scored, I forget how many points, but like a crazy amount of points, like 15, 20 points, and he played it left-handed. Amazing. So cool. If I find the clip, I'll send it to you guys. It was really cool.
So also, is because we're talking about Larry Bird, there was a thing on YouTube where he used to cut his own grass. He would mow his own lawn, like when he was like in his 3rd year with Boston, and he just did it because that's just what he was used to doing. And like reporters would come to his house, and he's like, "Yeah, come talk to me. I'm cutting my grass today." Like that's a real thing, which I think is really cool.
Very cool.
All right, guys.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks for.
That's a good one.
All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
Three draft picks.